Welcome to Business Influencers. Hope everyone is having a great week. Again, we'd like to thank everybody joining us each and every week here at Business Influencers, part of TALRadio, which is a division of Touch of Life Foundation. Again, we encourage you to check us out also at our Apple Podcast, Spotify, and also our YouTube channel at talradio.org. There you'll find many of the great episodes that we've had showcasing many of our subject matter experts sharing their words of wisdom and insights to take you and your business to the next level. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types. They also work with professional athletes who also are transitioning into the everyday world, into different professions, and a great opportunity for them to also be in one area where they can, correspond, communicate, share ideas, and be able to make these transitions seamlessly and helping each other to do so. Again, that takes all the noise out of social media. So this is also great for you if you're looking to land your next new job opportunity, perhaps a project that you might be looking for to work on with someone. This is a great place to do this as it is a membership program. As a member, you're also eligible for a wide array of different services that would normally not be available to you if you are running a business or something that is important in your career. Check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about trust is a double-edged sword. Trust me. And I can tell you, I've talked to this gentleman that just has a story that he is going to share that happened personally, very successful, and just something that, sometimes when we think of that word trust, this is something that we really all got to think about, because trust is earned over time, but can be broken within seconds. And we're going to be hearing a lot of great insight from Jeffrey Meshel. And Jeffrey Meshel is the CEO and co-founder of Candor Capital Partners. He's a partner co-founder of Lux Miami, and he's also, and Candor Capital is a real estate acquisition platform that originates short-term bridge loans secured against commercial or residential properties. Their current portfolio consists of commercial properties tenanted by medical-based companies, industrial properties, and residential multifamily. His Lux Miami is a high-end luxury car dealership and a rental business based out of Miami, Florida. Formerly, Jeffrey was the founder and CEO of Paradigm Capital and Paradigm Properties, chairman and founder of Divorce Force, a web-based community that empowered people affected by divorce. Jeffrey served on the board of directors of Signature Bank for 15 years. He has been on the board of the CPR Foundation, Community Police Relations. He is the founder and chairman of the Strategic Forum, a high-level network organization. And he's also the author of One Phone Call Away, Secrets of a Master Networker. Also, the Opportunity Magnet and Trust is a double-edged sword, trust me, which we're going to be sharing a lot of great insight that he'll be doing that here for you today. And without further ado, we welcome Jeffrey Meshel to the show. Jeffrey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How about yourself?
Doing great. Well, I know you have so much information to share, in this particular area. Trust is a double-edged sword. And, you just put out a book, where you're going to share a lot of insights from. And what, if you could share with us to give us kind of a backstory, not only, about the book, but what prompted you to actually writing the book and to help people, especially in business, in and around this particular area. What were the events that prompted you to write Trust is a Double-Edged Sword? Trust me.
Well, unfortunately, trust violation was a catalyst, and the story is pretty incredible. In fact, people that have been reading the book tell me this is the next Netflix series, what I'm about to share with you. I'm the networking guy. I've written 2 books on networking. So being a networking person, which means I like introducing people, I like helping people. Your nature is you got to be a trusting person, because I introduce you to someone else and something goes wrong, my fault. I'm a very trusting person. It's a strength and it's a weakness. And in my case, I've gotten terribly hurt. The story, without going into great length because it's in the book, is I had a crooked partner who, aside from being a thief and cost me tremendous amounts of money, is also a sociopath, and a very evil person. Fake names, forgery, thievery, sabotage, all those things, unfortunately, I experienced. And when I discovered, I had to shut down my company, that being Paradigm. I had to shut them off of everything and take control of all the assets to protect my investors. And if you saw me in 2019, my hands were shaking like this because I couldn't believe the extremity of the insane things this person did. He had 4 fake names, email addresses that were, under those fake names, he would send things to disparage reputation. He sent a letter to the chairman of the board of Signature Bank. The story's in the book, but I won't go into a lengthy, saying I'm under investigation for sexual harassment, which is completely fallacious, no, unsigned, really sick stuff. When I started to deal with all this and take control, I really got mad at myself. I mean, really mad at myself. And the reason is that I said, I was remiss. I was outright negligent. There were signs. There were things in the past, not necessarily that was happening in my company, although there were, but outside the company. This guy's name is David Kushner. He's from Cresskill, New Jersey. All sorts of bad things were happening in his where he lived. He was arrested for going after a basketball coach, and he created a fake email address and sent threatening emails to the coach, the coach's wife, and to the school, disparaging him to get him fired. I don't know what the email said, but it was scary enough that the coach went to the police in Cresskill, and they traced it to Kushner's house, and he and his wife got arrested. And that's just one story. There were so many things that were happening, and when I asked him about it, he denied it. Of course he would. And as time went on, and all these bizarre things happened, anytime I confronted him about something relative to a particular property or an issue, he had an answer, which invariably was a lie. It got so extreme that when I shut it down, I was stunned, as I said to you, and dealt with it, got through it. But while I was going through it, and as I said, I got really angry at myself, I started writing what happened. And I started really thinking about this word trust. It is the core to everything we do in our lives, for all of us. It's relevant to everybody. And in my case, I was remiss, negligent. I kicked the can in the corner. I didn't dig deep enough when I should have. As I was writing the book, I would send chapters to friends or people that I knew to get their feedback, to get their thoughts, opinions. Every time I sent a chapter to someone, it was like Mount Vesuvius. People would come to me. I can't believe this is unbelievable. Let me tell you what happened to me. I don't know one person that hasn't been violated in trust, either from a personal basis or on a business level. There's no exceptions. Everybody, including you, can think to some things that have happened where your trust has been breached. But then I started looking out my window and looking around and say, wow, today, the way the world is, trust is at a nadir. It's at the lowest point about every single thing out there, sadly. And you look at between the crime, the political situation. I mean, we could talk about every single topic. There is no trust. I recall 9/11 when I was in the city that day. I went out of my building, and city's in flux. And I looked south. I was on 42nd and Madison. And I saw all these people walking north, and they were covered in white soot. It was sort of like a scene from that show, The Walking Dead. And we're all stunned. We don't know what's going on. I lived on 84th Street. I was on 42nd. I had to walk home. Phones didn't have the technology they have today. But what I noticed that day, everybody was grabbing everybody. Everybody was helping everybody. Everyone was pulling people in cars. It didn't matter whether you were black, white, green, yellow. That day we were Americans. And that day we were all there for each other. All the hatred, all the distrust went away because that day we were united. It took that type of disaster to bring us all together. The following day, I went by Lenox Hill Hospital. There were hundreds of people in line looking to donate blood to people they didn't know. Today, unfortunately, we're the complete opposite. So I started doing a tremendous amount of research and thinking about all these different topics. I cover a lot in the book. It goes way beyond my personal story, but there's so many things that are in this book that are relevant, and I'm getting incredible reactions. If you go to Amazon, you see the reviews. It's the books of the Today Show right now, so we'll see if I get interviewed there. I got interviewed on my first book on the Today Show, but I'm very pumped up about it. And the reason I wrote it, because I said in the beginning of this conversation, I like helping people, like putting people together, and I feel obligated to make everybody more aware. And I'm getting the reactions like, whoa, I didn't think about this.
Yeah.
And people are coming up to me. And that's the reason why I wrote the book, to make us more aware.
What I love what I'm hearing, Jeffrey, is that, you were in this really tough situation, and obviously it impacted you, and you're being so transparent. And so many people have, that have been through similar situations have been dealing with this and maybe suffering in silence. And now you can bring this to the forefront that, hey, trust can be broken, but it also doesn't mean that we can't trust again. It's just a matter of, what to look for and what are some of the things that we can do to learn from this to move forward. And with what you've learned, and you've been, obviously you've been in business a long time. You're running, successful organizations as a CEO. How can one trust a business? It could be a business partner, a friend, an intimate partner, as there are so many people out there that could be potentially people like this guy, David, that could be outright liars and out to deceive others at their own expense.
Well, there's several things, having learned the hard way. One is Ronald Reagan said it, and he said it right. He was at the time speaking about the Russians. Trust, but verify. I was remiss because I didn't focus on the operations of our business. I was the rainmaker. My role, he always said, stay out of the office, do what you do best, do your schmoozing, go around, you're the networking guy. I'll take care of everything. And I accepted that without looking over his shoulder. That was remiss. And when I started asking, he lied. I didn't look deep enough until I did. You have to trust, but you have to verify. I am not becoming a distrustful person. I like trusting. I like feeling good about it. I'm just more careful about it now because of these circumstances. I made myself smarter. I made myself smarter also by even doing all this research and looking at all the things out there. There's a chapter in the book, Should I Buy What I'm Sold? And it talks about all these products that are marketed to us with fallacious representations. Some of it's funny, but some of it's far from funny. We just have to be a lot smarter, and we have to be much more responsible to ourselves. And the other key thing, your gut. Your gut is always right. If your gut tells you something's wrong, or you feel it, and I did, my gut told me there was something wrong, do not defy your gut. 99% of the time, it's spot on. These are a couple of the points you consider.
Wow, that's great insight. So just to elaborate on that, because there are a lot of people that are entering into partnerships. And oftentimes me as a business executive coach, I always advise you never jump into a partnership with someone. It's like a marriage. You're not going to marry someone just because you met them a few times and you're like, wow, the magic's there. Let's get married or let's start a business. You got to get to know people. What would be some of the things that you would look for to spot an untrustworthy person? Or how would you spot a liar? Like, I know you kind of touched on it, but maybe more specifics to give people to understand that you just don't jump into things. You got to do that dance with them to kind of flush things out before you make a commitment to start a business, to go into a partnership, to work on a project, to, form a relationship, get married, that type of thing.
Interesting, because again, as I mentioned, I did a lot of research into whatever I know, which I guess I know a lot of things. There are a lot of things I don't know. I listened to a lot of TED Talks, and there was a TED Talk given by a woman who's an authority on liars. She called it the liar spotter presentation. And there are things that liars do or don't do. And, not looking directly in the eyes, speaking very quick. There are all these little telltales. In the book, there's a list explaining these things you need to look for that kind of are flags that would indicate the person's not telling the truth. But again, your gut tells you. If someone, contradicts themselves or vacillates or doesn't give you straightforward answers that you feel is not right, then it's not right. But there's so much in the book about all these different variables that you need to look at or consider, and then it always falls back to your gut. I'm not changing. I'm always going to be a really trusting person, I'm just smarter about it now.
Yeah. Yeah. So wise. And I love the fact that, your intuition. I've had that before where when I was younger, I had a hard time, listening to my intuition. I would always challenge it. And then I would then learn the hard way. And God, I knew that there was something not right. And now, as I'm older now, I've learned to really, when I feel something's not right, I don't even second guess myself. I just let it go and don't look back.
You'll mitigate a lot of pain if you stick to that discipline.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, getting back to, I guess, the intuition, because there are going to be people here that are listening that could be, younger people. There could be people in their, 20s, 30s, 40s, any age. But nonetheless, they may still be battling with trusting their own decisions. How do you know how to trust your decisions based upon that intuition? I know I've learned eventually, but it took me a while, and I had to learn the hard way. And obviously you learned firsthand, by going through this very difficult experience that you did. And I've been, in and around that myself in other ways. But what would be some things you could share with the audience that how you could go about trusting your intuition better and trusting your decisions?
Well, it's interesting because there's a chapter in the book, the title of which is, "Do you trust yourself?" And surprisingly, I share a story about, I was speaking, because I probably could tell I enjoy speaking. I love speaking. I was actually speaking about my first two books, but I was introduced to this audience because of my new book was coming. And and when I do speak, I do so on an impromptu basis. I don't have cards. I don't know what to say beforehand. And for whatever reason, after deviating about the book, I looked at the room and I called on somebody in the audience. And I said to this gentleman, I shared the story in the book. I said, "Sir, excuse me, what's your name?" And he says, "Alejandro." I said, "Alejandro, may I ask you a question, please?" He says, "Sure." I said, "Alejandro, when I ask you this question, do you promise to give me a truthful answer?" He says, "Yes." I said, "Well, thank you so much." I said, "Do you mind standing up?" And he does. And I look at him and I said, "Alejandro, the question I'm about to ask you, it's kind of an important question because I have an entire chapter on this question. So there's a lot of content. So I'm sorry to be redundant, but you do promise to give me a truthful answer." You had to see his face. He started getting a little ill at ease. He says, like his head, "What's this guy going to ask me?" He said, "Yeah." So I walk over, I go 5 feet from him. I look him in his eyes. I said, "Alejandro, do you trust yourself?" His right eyebrow shot up. He looked down at his feet. He goes, "Of course I do, 1,000%. I totally trust myself. Absolutely trust myself." Just like that. Everybody in the room is going like this, nodding their head. "Yeah, right, sure." I looked at him and I said, "Alejandro, I get it. I see. Look at you. You're an elegant gentleman. You speak well. You're obviously very achieved at what you do. I see it. I get it. It's obvious you totally trust yourself." I said, "The funny thing is, so do I. I totally trust myself. I got multiple companies. I've been on multiple boards. It's my third book. I've got a lot of friends. It's, all great stuff. I too, I'm just like you. I totally trust myself, except when I don't." And that's the case with everybody. But there are times that we either do or don't do something because we don't totally trust ourselves. And the reality is to identify it, to understand it, and to get smarter about it. There's so many elements. You talk about relationships. I have two chapters about marriage in the book. The derisive one is "Until Death Do Us Part / Probably Not." I go into a lot of personal things. My ex-wife went through 20 different attorneys in my divorce. Not making it up. That's why I created a company called Divorce Force to help people that go through that terrible process. And I go into a lot of the bad stuff. But then I've got the positive chapter called 30 Plus. I interviewed 30 people married over 30 years, and I asked them 30 questions. What's the secret sauce? How do you keep it together? What's the real binding thing in terms of the trust and relationship? And there was great consistency in what some of these people said. The number one thing is you got to be with your best friend. But it was fascinating to learn. We learn by experience, and we're going to have bad experiences. The most important thing in trusting yourself is do the right thing by yourself, taking care of yourself. Drug addicts, people that are obese, 60% of the population is obese. What is that? Forget the physicality of not looking good. Fatty liver disease, heart attack, diabetes. You're putting yourself in harm's way. Me, I would argue you don't trust yourself because don't you want to be healthy? If you trust yourself, you're going to do what's right for yourself. So it really becomes being introspective and being honest because so many people don't trust themselves, not just the decisions about what they're doing with friendships, marriages, but even their own health and physicality. And it's a really it's a very important introspective exercise. I work out every day, 6 days a week. I worked out 2 hours this morning. I know I have to do it. It pumps me up, but more importantly, it's healthy. It makes me feel good. So we're responsible for ourselves. It's just about being responsible.
Well, I love what you said, because it comes down to, the discipline and the consistency with those disciplines, because there are going to be things that again, we might think that our ego will say, yeah, I know myself, or I can make these decisions. I trust myself. But there are going to be times where there is going to be a lack of understanding or doubt. We're human beings. It doesn't matter what title or how much experience we have, but it's knowing that if we're doing the things, like you said, that are improving our impacting our confidence, impacting our mental state of being, our emotional state of being, our physical state of being, and so on and so on. These are the things that we can draw upon as resources or strength to begin to trust ourselves more and more. I've noticed that my trust in myself went up more when I developed my level of confidence over the years through discipline and consistency with a daily routine that you just described.
So I'm hitting a nerve here, right? I'm hitting something that's relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a friend of mine who's actually an advisor. He's older guy in his 80s. He's an authority on relationships. And when I had the most dysfunctional marriage, and I had a girlfriend that there was major issues with her, I would sit down and talk. I mean, not as a psychiatrist, as a friend, but he was an expert about women. And every time he would bring something up that was relevant, and I would say, Martin, I know. And then we'd continue, we'd go on and on. And I'd say something else, and I'd say, Martin, I know. The third time I said, I know, he says to me, Jeff, do you know what I know is? I look at him puzzled. What do you mean? Do you know what I know is? I said, tell me. It's the booby prize. What are you doing about what you know? Slap on the forehead. And that's the thing. We can all make excuses, but we're all responsible to ourselves. We just got to get smarter, more knowledgeable. And the real people in our lives, I'm fortunate. I have a lot of close friends, people that really care about me, and I really care about them. But I also can tell the phonies. Me people. Those people, you have a conversation. I share in the story about the book about a guy, very nice guy. But every time I spend time with this guy, it's all about him. It's all about his issues and girlfriend thing, And so if I bring anything about myself, it's like he doesn't even see it. He doesn't focus on it. He goes back and talks about himself. I describe him as a guy who lives in a room where all the walls are mirrors. He doesn't stop looking at, and there's no room. So I put him in a corner in terms of him being a friend. He's not really a friend. He's somebody I know. I don't have an interest to be more friendly with him, because it's a one-sided type of thing. I'm sure everyone that's listening to this, including you, know people like I just described. Stay away from them. You want to be people that are givers, that are carers, and that are sincere.
Yeah, I agree. The people that give from empathy and kindness and empower you to, you to find what's best within you, and listen well, listen to relate and understand. So I think that's quite powerful. And I had to learn that also the hard way, because I was a pleaser and an enabler, and that didn't help. I thought I was helping people, but I was keeping them stuck in their ways and exhausting myself. And that is no recipe for any good thing that comes from that. So the empathy and kindness, I learned that valuable lesson.
And that's what life is. It's one valuable lesson after another. But if you have the lesson, then do something. Don't keep yourself in the mire. You have to be responsible. I mean, the word ideal is just a word. Life is not an ideal, but we can definitely be better for each other and make ourselves stronger. You mentioned in my bio that I'm on the board of something called the CPR Foundation. The acronym stands for Community Police Relations Foundation. Very major people, financially successful people are involved. And we're trying to repair the apathy that exists between law enforcement and the community, very much fueled by the very extreme left movements that, defund the police and all this stuff. And, I show up. Forget that I write a check and I'm a big sponsor. Financially, I actually go and show up at events. I went up to Harlem a year ago, we were giving away $50 food cards to Food Town, to the residents of something called the Webster Projects. And when I say we were giving away, it wasn't we, the police were giving away. We bought them and the police were giving away. Pouring rain that day. I get there, I pull my car in the playground, very dangerous area, line wrapped around the block. I walk, there's a big tent, two policemen are standing there, a lieutenant and a sergeant. As I walk up, an elderly woman walks in and the police sergeant hands her a card, and she looks at me and she says, I want to thank you so much. You have no idea how meaningful this is. This really helps me so much. I was just like that, very emotional. And I'm like standing there, $50 food card. And I'm looking at her. I said, ma'am, please don't thank me. It's nothing to do with me. You thank this police sergeant. He's here every day, watching you back. He's here taking care of you. She paused, repeat what she said to me to him, and then said, I promise you, the crime, it'll get better here. I appreciate you being here. You know, people, they're good people. They're impoverished people. They're wealthy people. They're decent, good people out there. And in this world, all the hatred that has been brewed through all these, agendized movements, it's terrible. It's really, really terrible. I'm very passionate about that. And we've done some amazing things.
Wow, that's fabulous. I love the fact that, sometimes through what you had mentioned, through these difficult, life-changing situations, in this case was also business, but there's always something to be learned and something good that comes from it eventually. And now you're giving this back, creating awareness and sharing through this valuable book that you put out that, that could help so many people, not only in business, but also in their personal lives as well. And all the other different groups that you get involved in and helping people in and around this. So I first want to thank you for sharing that. We're getting towards the end of the show. I wanted to see if you wanted to kind of just close things out for the next, minute or two. Is trusting, the way we look at it, good or bad? And what would you recommend? How do we go about, gaining trust in a positive, healthy way?
Well, one is stop lying to ourselves or avoiding life and the things that are happening. Either we're our own best friend or we're our own worst enemy. And we all face the same things. And so obviously I'm very passionate about this book. There's so much in here that's so relevant to every person out there. We have to take responsibility for ourselves. Period. End of story. We have to make ourselves happy. We have to make ourselves successful. We have to make ourselves smarter. It's a quest. Excuses are just what those are. They don't create solutions. So I'm imploring everybody, take a deep breath, appreciate what you have. We can all get better. Just be smart, be open and smart and be aware. And if you read this book, I do promise you, you will be a lot more aware.
Wow. Love it. So much valuable information. And with that being said, Jeffrey, I would love to, if you could share with the audience, how can people get in touch with you and, reach out to you? And also, where's the best place they can get their hands on this book so that they can start reading this as soon as they get it, to start seeing what they can do now to learn from their past experiences. So this way they can better be more proactive, not to repeat these same mistakes again in their life. I
guess it's in a lot of places, but I guess the easiest place is Amazon. I do want to point out that the author is not my name. And the reason the author is not my name is because I go into detail about the story about my crooked ex-partner, David Kushner, and the publisher wouldn't allow me to use my name because they were concerned about liability. So the author's name is Way Will. My middle name is Wayne. My son's middle name is William. So I tried to be creative and come up with a pen name. So it's Way Will. Trust is a double-edged sword. Trust me. And I'm available. Easiest way, email Meshel, MESHELJ1 @gmail.com. Anyone wants to reach out to me, if I can be helpful, if you have an issue you want to chat, brainstorm about, I invite you. I love helping people. I love going out of my way. And if I make a difference, that's my definition of wealth. Wow. I love it. Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today. So much valuable information. And we value your transparency and authenticity and all your experience and sharing this, that people at all levels, no matter where they come from, whatever their background is, that we've all
have had issues with trust, but that we can learn and grow from it. And I want to thank you personally.
It was my pleasure and honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And listeners, we want to thank you each and every week joining us here at Business Influencers. Again, we highly encourage you to check out this show, share it with people you really care about here at the TALRadio.org website. Also, you could share on Apple, Spotify, and on our TALRadio YouTube channel. Again, Business Influencers. And we are committed each and every week bringing in guests like Jeffrey to share from their heart, share from their experience in helping you to move your business and personal success to the next level. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week, same time.